times have I seen men in your state? I've been in it many times over myself. The thrill of victory fades quickly. Stop talking. I will never stop talking now. I speak only when there's something to be said.
Thank you for being here with me.
Philadelphia's real-life Rocky, based on the true story of Vince Papale, played by Mark Wahlburg, a 30-year-old bartender from South Philadelphia who overcame long odds to play for the NFL's Philadelphia Eagles in 1976. Disney Studios takes us on a fluffed-up ride with a down-on-his-luck 30-year-old substitute teacher and bartender. His wife leaves him when he needs the most support and leaves a devastating note that says he will never amount to anything, never make a name for himself, and never make any money. Disney now has the hero's journey set for Vince, one of the oldest tales in all of storylines. While Vince is definitely the hero in this story, the second most important character in this movie is someone I believe most people missed if not paying attention to the ancient archetypes that have been played out throughout human history through Shakespearian storylines. The second star in the movie Invincible is Vince's friend, Johnny, whose acting aligns perfectly with the archetype of John Falstaff.
I went to a bedtime, Hal, and all well.
Why, thou owest God a debt.
'Tis not due yet. I would be loath to pay him before his day. What need I be so forward with him that calls not on me?
John Falstaff is one of Shakespeare's great characters. There are actually two John Falstaffs, or John Falstaff exists in two different types of plays. There are the two Henry IV plays, parts 1 and 2, where he's the companion of Prince Hal, who is the future King of England, will be coronated Henry V. And then there's the John Falstaff in the comedy Merry Wives of Windsor. In the history plays, in the Henry IV plays, Falstaff represents an example of a kind of extreme lifestyle that Prince Hal has to consider as he grows up. In the first play, Henry IV Part 1, Falstaff is a regular denizen at the Boar's Head Tavern, and he's completely amoral. He's fat, he's lecherous, he's a coward. He represents everything that a young Prince Hal probably doesn't want to become.
Oh, if honor prick me off when I come on her, then can honor set to a leg? No. Or an arm? No. Or take away the grief of a wound? No. Honor hath no skill.
In the second Henry IV play, Hal has to separate himself from Falstaff. He needs to grow up, and the character is distanced somewhat. By the time Shakespeare wrote or revisited the character in Merry Wives of Windsor, Falstaff had taken on a very different tone. He's a bit of a buffoon. He's kind of the butt of everyone's jokes. Very different sort of character than he is in those two Henry IV plays.
What is honor? Air. A trim reckoning. Who hath it? He that died a Wednesday. Doth he feel it? No. 'Tis insensible and yea to the dead. But will it not live with the living? No. Why? Detraction will not suffer it. Therefore I'll none of it. Honor is a mere scutcheon. And so ends my catechism.
Sir John Falstaff is a fictional character who appears in 3 plays by William Shakespeare and is eulogized in a 4th. His significance as a fully developed character is primarily formed in the plays Henry IV, Part 1 and Part 2, where he is a companion to Prince Hal, the future King Henry V of England. The town drunk, also called a tavern fool, is a stock character, almost always male, who is drunk more often than sober.
Mr. Gumbo, you're upsetting me.
No, I'm not. Gee, is that what I look like when I'm drunk? You wish.
The town drunk may serve as a jester figure, a semi-comic proxy for the wise old man. He may disrupt public meetings, either for comic effect or by dispensing what proves to be wisdom in a garbled and comic form.
That's the stage we call Professor Barney. Talkative, coherent, even insightful.
Round here, the town drunk is a person of great honor.
A good sherry sack hath a twofold operation in it. It ascends me into the brain, and dries me there all the foolish and dull and cruddy vapors which environ it, makes it apprehensive, quick forgettive, full of nimble, fiery, and delectable shapes, which, delivered o'er to the voice, the tongue, which is the birth, becomes excellent wit. If I had 1,000 sons, the first humane principle I would teach them should be this: to forswear thin potations, and to addict themselves to sack.
Why does he get to run a tab? I don't. Because he's got a job, that's why. That's great, Max. That's a great way to treat a friend. You know what I found stage for? Not for long, pal. Not for long. See you on the unemployment line.
Or in this incarnation, the character may introduce the hero to some of the worldlier sorts of wisdom, as well as forming a contrast to his truly heroic character, which all ties back to Johnny's important role for Vince as being his catalysts to true heroic success.
Hey, forget it, he's drunk. Hey, forget it, he's drunk.
There were 3 key moments in the movie Invincible where Johnny, played by actor Dove David Hoff, gave indispensable wisdom to his friend Vince, while it being masked behind drunken sorrow for his own downtrodden life situation. While Johnny is seen as a quote-unquote Vince hater throughout most of the movie, under the surface, he is the reason why Vince catapulted to his success. Let's start from the beginning.
Leonard Toews announced the hiring of UCLA's Dick Vermeil.
Hey, Grumpy, want to turn up the tube?
Before I take your questions, I'd like to make a quick announcement. Philadelphia Eagles will hold open tryouts.
Nobody's trying out, Tommy, okay?
Why not? You clean up at all our games.
The hero of this movie finally gets his quest from his friends who understand his potential more than he does. While he does have some doubters at the bar, he is still a local superstar in the league games.
The whole difference between me, Joe Green, and Bobby from the Tank.
Why not? Your old lady ain't gonna stop you.
What'd you say, Johnny?
This is the first magical moment between Vince and Johnny. Through all the commotion at the bar, Johnny cuts through the noise and gives the cold, hard, sobering truth.
Why not? Your old lady ain't gonna stop you.
And Johnny is totally right if you listen to what he is actually saying. This is an opportunity of a lifetime, and in this current situation, Vince has no baggage from anyone close to him to hold him back.
I'll bet you $5 that fly lands on my glass first. It's a bet.
Drunk or not, jobless or not, Johnny is right. Vince's wife isn't stopping him, so there is no reason for him not to try out for the Eagles.
Hey, forget it, he's drunk.
This isn't UCLA anymore. These are the toughest fans there are. They threw snowballs at Santa Claus. You remember?
The team had started the year 0-11, which was awful, except that people thought, you know what? We're going to get O.J. That was the year O.J. Simpson came out.
Right at the point where you're happy that they're losing games, they start to win games. Now the season is truly a total loss because now you're just a bad team. You're not the worst team, which is what you wanted to be, but you're just a bad team.
People arrived at the game. They found their seats covered with a half a foot of snow, and it was cold. It was windy. It was a nasty December day. They had a Christmas pageant every year. Santa Claus never showed up that day. The guy they had booked to be Santa looked out his window that morning and said, "Foot of snow, I'm staying home." And they began halftime with no Santa. They looked around the stands, and there was a 19-year-old kid who had that morning dressed as Santa to go to the game.
The last game of the year, every year, I would go dressed as Santa.
5'6", 140 pounds, undersized kid with a ratty, scraggly Santa Claus outfit. Terrible little costume. But they go up to him and they pull him and they say, listen, our Santa didn't show up. You want to be the guy.
And he said, just walk down the center of the column and wave to all the sections of the stadium.
The fans were in such a bad mood, none of us wanted to see Santa Claus to begin with.
It's a bad game. It's a cold day. They're sitting in their rear ends in snow. And here comes this lousy little Santa running down the field. So they start to boo.
You hear the booing. You hear it. And I said, well, you know, I understand what's going on here. You know, they're not booing me. They're just booing Santa Claus. They're booing everything.
He was a sitting duck. I mean, you could have imagined that there was going to be trouble just because he was so close.
As I was starting to walk back, I saw the snowballs starting to come, and then I started getting hit with them.
And all of a sudden, Santa Claus is dodging and ducking, and there's a full stadium full of people just wailing away at Santa Claus.
I actually remember feeling a little twinge of anxiety that they might really hurt Santa.
I remember watching a fella make a snowball and throw it at me, and I just walked up to him, you know, at the bottom of the wall there, and I said, you're not getting anything for Christmas.
When he dies, you already know what the first line of his obituary is going to say. Frank Olivo, the Santa Claus who got pelted with snowballs that winter day in 1968. That's who he will be for the rest of his life.
Still on boys, Tommy.
Not this year, Paul. Not this town. Not this town.
Philadelphia has always been a tough town. A town where you don't just chase your dreams, you tackle them.
Well, a while back we interviewed Dick Vermeil. He's a very humble man. He's a very nice man. But what was it like playing for him? Is he as intense as he appears to be?
Oh my God. You know, I forgot his intensity until he just got inducted into the NFL. Networks here in Philadelphia were just playing videos of Dick back in the day in 76, 7, 8, 9. Dick is he's really intense when he gets up there and speaks. But when you're with him, you know, he's calm. He's really loving. He is the nicest, calmest, the sweetest man in the world. But man, he was an animal back then. But you know what? I was too as a coach. And I loved it. And you know, these guys, because that's the way my high school coaches were. That's the way my junior high school coaches were. There were no safety zones. You know, if you didn't make the play and you're getting reamed out in front of 80, 60, 70 guys in the meeting room, there's no corner for you to go and suck your thumb or start, you know, doing. We didn't have any of those zones. You know. And that's the way it should be. I mean, it's a contact, it's a violent sport, and you got to be able to sift out those, you know. And he worked us harder than anybody, and but for me, that was the way I liked it to be.
So you were the first ever special teams coach,
1969, yeah,
in the NFL,
right?
For George Allen,
right. The reason he wanted a special teams coach, they had lost a game because of a kickoff return for a touchdown. The season's over. They missed the playoffs because of that game. George Allen had the staff go back and evaluate every kickoff coverage. And the two guys that missed the tackle, that gave up the touchdown that cost them the playoff berth, never made a tackle all year, but no one knew it. And he said, I need somebody looking at these videos, at that time film, every week. So he decided to hire a special teams coach, and I was fortunate enough to be the guy.
After all the cinematic persuasions from Vince's friends and dad,
might not be the worst thing to let this one go. Man can only take so much failure.
Papale's first call was to his first coach, to his father, to a Westinghouse steel plant and a man who worked there for 50 years, to a man nicknamed Kingy.
I said, tell Kingy, we're a Philadelphia Eagle. And all I could hear in the background was Westinghouse going nuts. It just erupted in cheers and celebration.
he goes to the Eagles tryouts and runs a 4.5 40-yard dash, wowing the coaching staff. Ultimately, he makes the training camp roster and survives the first few cuts. But he isn't out of the woods yet, and Johnny will once again get Vince back on track. Vince is gaining notoriety around the area confidence and is starting to form romantic tension between his future wife, Janet.
A giant shirt? Were you trying to get me killed here?
So how'd it go?
Got a rope.
Who is a Giants fan, the Eagles' oldest and most bitter rival. For every good hero's journey, there is a heroine.
Chicken soup. Cures everything, yeah?
The counterpart of romantic weakness to the alpha male. For every Hercules, there is a Megara. Megara is a figure in ancient Greek mythology. Megara was a Theban princess and the first wife to the hero Hercules. Usually as emphasized in movies, timing is everything in these scenarios. And Johnny knows now is not the time for Vince to allow other experiences to pull him away from the one he truly wants and the experience that will transcend the whole city.
Anybody take you to Columbus yet? Best cheesesteak in Philly.
Anybody ask him?
Janet will eventually love Vince for who he is because she allows him to play out his hero's journey.
Wow, what a day. First that restaurant by the bay, and then that play, that Oedipus thing?
Long as 9 o'clock gets you back for your curfew.
Wonder Boy, you are perfect.
Thanks. Whoops.
Jump back pretty fast, huh, buddy boy? Jump back pretty fast, huh, buddy boy?
Hold up. Let Johnny cook for a second. Let him cook. Johnny John Falstaff is the hero's hero once again.
You really think a nice looking girl from New York should come back, start over on us? Just because everybody's cheering for you, trying to be an eagle?
And I don't want to hurt you, so let's both do ourselves a favor and stop this.
Just talking here. What's your problem, John? You'll still be nothing, man. When all this is over and done, nothing.
Before we...
All right, break it up! Break it up! The party's over! I've been looking all over this town!
Just like the rest of us.
And as for you, you bum, you're gonna go to the stadium and you're gonna be put through the work out of your life. Now get on the horse.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I was just thinking, you know what? I didn't think I was going to make it past the first week of all this. Maybe it's just better if I just think about one thing instead of everything else.
He'll get over it.
Jen.
No, we'll do this tomorrow night. I'll tell everyone you said hi.
Move! Move!
Papale was invited to training camp, where he played in preseason games and made an impression as a sure-handed receiver and special teamer, surviving cut after cut, lasting longer than anyone thought.
As the season started to get closer, everybody started pulling for him. I was saying, Vince, you got to do this. You got to get to the next day. You can't take any crap from anybody. You got to get up, get in their faces. You got to take note.
While in Disney's version, Hercules and Meg live happily ever after, in the real Greek mythology, the ending of their happy marriage comes to a horrific and gruesome end. Hera, Greek goddess of marriage, is still angry at the existence of Hercules. Hercules is the son of Hera's husband Zeus and a mortal woman, Eclymene. Thus, he is a constant reminder to Hera of her husband's infidelity. To attempt to destroy him once again, Hera sends a madness upon Hercules as he is praying to the gods. Hera makes Hercules believe that his wife Megara and his sons are his enemies, Hera and Lycus. Fearing for his and his family's lives, he kills Megara and his 3 sons. Once Hercules realizes what he has done, he is struck with grief and full of remorse. He visits Apollo, the Greek god of healing, medicine, poetry, and the arts. Apollo tells Hercules that he must visit King Eurystheus and serve him to repent for what he has done. King Eurystheus, in turn, makes him complete 12 extremely difficult and near impossible labors to pay for what he has done to his wife and children.
on to that for a few more months. Welcome to the Eagles.
Just before the final cut day, Vermeil approached Papale on the field.
I look at him, and I'm thinking, hey, this has been really a great experience. Thanks a lot, Coach. I know, you know. And he says, congratulations, old man. He says, you're a Philadelphia Eagle. He says, nice job. And he shook my hand. And I went nuts.
Vince does it. He makes the Eagles' final 53-man roster for the regular season. The miracle does manifest. South Philly's very own will be representing the city on Sundays.
You're a freaking Eagle, aren't you? Freaking Philadelphia Eagle!
Receiving an NFL paycheck for a full season is nothing to downplay. So it's totally okay for our hero Vince to celebrate with his pals with a few drinks. Vince finally acknowledges Johnny for his key role by buying him a drink. And asks Max why Johnny seems mad at him.
Let me ask you a question, Max. Oh, John. It's the worst time in his life right now. He's got no job. He's got no family. He just got us. You're one of us.
But in reality, the real work has just begun, and the Wolves on the other side of the playing field is a step up in competition for Vince. Being a Philadelphia Eagle provides a very unique situation for Vince. He feels that he is out of place everywhere in his life. He is an Eagle, so he cannot do the same things his friends can, but the Eagles players don't respect Vince because they feel he took a valuable spot on the team. This dilemma weighs on Vince heavily, but the one person who can bring him out of the dumps will, and in his own way. Johnny persuades Vince to get back to his roots and play football with his boys.
Hustle up, let's go. Hustle up to watch us get dragged through the mud. Just trying, bro.
The very thing Vince needed to let all the pressure of being a professional player go.
Yo, Vince, I don't know how much longer the Eagles are going to need you, but your friends could use a little help.
For the third and final time, Johnny turns out to be the hero's hero for Vince. Instead of taking the disgruntled town drunk route and speaking to Vince, Johnny playfully jokes with him like old times. Johnny shows awareness, which highlights the range of ability from the Falstaff role.
You're nuts, you know that? So, Max, good to see you.
Devising and running a trick pass play from Vince to Johnny is the climax of the film because Vince once again feels like a kid. Thank you for your role, Johnny John Falstaff.
Even if this is your last game with the Eagles, win one for the boys in the neighborhood, huh?
Fly, Eagles, fly, baby. Go Birds.
I just sprinted out of that tunnel full speed. I don't think my feet touched the ground, and I went all the way to the end of the field in the end zone, and I looked up in the stands and I saw my dad, and I just pointed up at him and all my buddies I had season tickets with, and they were going ballistic. They were absolutely gone nuts.
I speak only when there's something to be said.
We covered the hidden core to the movie Invincible, and when working with archetypes, it usually deals with hidden truths. Time to shift focus over to the inaccuracies of the film. Disney Studios loves taking liberties on stories to pull out all the emotions from its viewers. Fluffier the better in Disney's eyes. They have had no problem throughout history adjusting actual stories to fit the specific narratives they want to get across. Their rendition of Vince Papale's in the 1976 Philadelphia Eagles is no different. Hollywood never shies away from stretching the truth or pushing the envelope of authenticity. I will say this now before we dive into the discrepancies. I thoroughly loved Disney's Invincible with Mark Wahlberg playing the 30-year-old South Philly bartender walk on Vince Papale. But this does not mean I cannot highlight the liberties taken by Disney, which in fact hurts the overall authenticity of the real story. It's okay to love the movie and expose the Hollywood magic. Disclaimer out of the way, let's dive in. Vince is not from South Philly. Papale grew up in Glenolden, a blue-collar Philadelphia suburb located about 12 miles away from his urban movie neighborhood of South Philly. But of course, the story plays a lot better if he is from the notorious South Philly area and not his real hometown. Did Vince Papale's first wife really leave him like in the film? Yes, this is mostly true, and he did in fact use the nasty note she left him, "You'll never go anywhere, never make a name for yourself, and never make any money," as motivation. But it happened in 1971, 5 years before the events in the film.
She was right, old man. You ain't going nowhere.
Next, there was a huge height difference between the actor and real person. Mark Wahlberg plays Vince Papale and is much smaller. Wahlberg is only 5'8" and 170 pounds, while the real Vince Papale is 6'2" and 185 pounds.
Papale played just 1 year of high school football. He didn't play a single down in college. Sandlots were his stadiums, and semi-pro rough touch his leagues. Always the guy no one could catch.
See, Vince? That's another reason why you got to try out this weekend.
In the movie, his friends continuously beg him to go to the open tryout. Papale admits that this was somewhat different than in real life. His friends did egg him on, but he just wanted it to keep quiet.
Nobody's trying out, Tommy, okay? Why not? You clean up at all our games.
It was 7-on-7. It was 7 guys. Everybody was eligible to go out and make the reception. Everybody was eligible to make the play. And I was the speedster.
The whole difference between me, Joe Green, and Bobby from the Tank.
The Philadelphia Eagles tryout wasn't all or nothing for Vince. If he didn't make the team, he would have went back to school, got his master's degree, and probably would have went into high school counseling. Did Vince really run a 4.5-second 40-yard dash at the 1976 Philadelphia Eagles open tryout? Yes, the Philadelphia Eagles contacted Vince Papale and invited him to the open tryout. He trained all the time. As shown in the film, on the day of the tryout, Dick Vermeil did take note of Papale's 40-yard dash time.
I first noticed Vince when we timed him in a 40. At that time, you used a stopwatch, not a digital stopwatch. And I think he ran around 4.5, and he looked very good running. He said, hey, this guy can run.
Throw him a few.
Coaches then sent players into 7-on-7 drills.
I'm the king of 7-on-7. I play touch football for Max's, Cannon Cafe, Deacon Ale House, Benny's Bar, the Gross Place. They couldn't touch me on 7-on-7. So now these guys are trying to take my head off. You can't mess with me. I played with guys better than you. I played against Goop Delicio. You know, I played against Kiki Mamone, Mickey Spallone. You know, all these guys that I played against. You guys can't hurt me.
Well, there's no chance that he could play. I just figured there's no chance. But, you know, we're taking kids to camp. He could run. He had a tremendous, enthusiastic approach about the game, passionate about it, bubbly with sincerity. Give him a chance.
Here are some quick authentic wardrobe and prop malpractices for you in 3 scenes in this movie. An Eagles player on the sidelines is wearing a headband with the current Eagles logo. The movie is set in 1976, 20 years before the current logo was designed in 1996. The logo was also upside down. Was this on purpose? During the Giants game when Vince is knocked out of bounds, you can see he has power shoulder pads on. Riddell did not come out with the power shoulder pads until the early 1990s.
In the contact sport of football, one of the most important pieces of equipment is the protective pad. Over the years, technology has played a major role in pad development. In the 30s, pads were flimsy and ineffective, made of leather and canvas. Later, developments in plastic and foam led to a heavy, more protective pad, but still left the delicate lower rib cage area exposed. How have football pads rocketed into the 90s? The answer in a moment. With a revolutionary new open cell foam and high molecular weight, high-density polyethylene plastic, the new Pro model shoulder pad with Pro custom attachment provides space-age protection for today's football players.
Now when you're getting hit here with the open cell type air system padding that we're using, it's dispersed 360 degrees throughout the air system, and the air moves in the vectoral force motion and just disperses the energy a whole lot better.
Power, the exclusive shoulder pad supplier to the World League, has even replaced a traditional separate flak jacket with a new zip-on rib cage pad in use by all teams. One-piece high-tech protection for the 90s.
The jukebox at Max's Bar, where Vince worked at, was a Rowe AMI model R82, which was manufactured first in 1978. This story takes place in 1976, 2 years before.
Anybody take you to Columbo's yet? Best cheesesteak in Philly.
This is a big one. Columbo's is not a real cheesesteak spot in Philly. Some thought it was Pat or Gino's, but locals said it was an old Italian place on the corner of East Passyunk Avenue and South Juniper Street. To come full circle and to answer the question that we started with, last but not least, the movie shows Vince scoring a touchdown at the end, but his stats in real life contradict this. The filmmakers added Vince's touchdown for dramatic effect. In real life, he never scored a touchdown. But with this being said, it's still his greatest memory. As Vince would put it, against the Giants in my rookie season, I was coming down the field so hard I made two Giants players collide with the punt returner, and he ended up fumbling it, and I recovered it. Our offense would score a touchdown on the ensuing series, and we defeated the Giants 20-7, giving Dick Vermeil his first win as an NFL head coach. PhiladelphiaEagles.com.
What are you talking about? These guys lost their pride 2 months ago.
All I wanted to do was be part of a team, and all I ever wanted to do was be a Philadelphia Eagle. That was my dream.
Maybe next year, yeah? Maybe we'll all be millionaires.
Than 25 years later, through legend and memory, the bond between a tough town and one of its hardest tacklers has never ended.
I just love walking through the streets and people, strangers coming up and just saying, I remember when you played. You just made me feel so good. You gave us hope. Philly was looking for hope. They were looking for a hero, and he said, here I am. Take me for what I am. I'm having a ball, and have a ball with me. And they liked it.